The first time I stepped into Rosewood Manor, I didn't know my life was about to change forever. I was just a girl looking for a job, a receptionist position, posted anonymously online, clean typing skills, proper diction, good phone manners, quiet presence. I thought it was nothing more than that. A job to pay the bills. Maybe stay for a few months. Save. Move on. My name is Elsie. I was 26. Between dreams that hadn't quite landed and heartbreaks I never talked about. The mansion was a monument to silence. Smooth marble floors that echoed too loudly. Walls so tall they made you feel small, and chandeliers that didn't seem to belong in real life. I remember the way the air smelled, like old books, citrus oil, and something colder. Like power. The housekeeper, Miriam, was the one who greeted me. Not a smile, not a frown, just eyes that had seen too much. She led me in like I already belonged there, told me I'd be working in the West Wing, and that the man who owned the house was private. That was the word she used. Not cold, not rude, just private. I didn't meet him for 3 weeks. I answered phones that rarely rang, organized files that no one looked at, and made coffee for visitors who never came. Sometimes I'd stare out the tall arched windows, watching the trees sway against the gray sky, wondering who lived in a house this big and stayed so invisible. They called him Mr. Donovan. Donovan Hart. The name meant nothing to me then, just a surname whispered like a warning in the hallways. But everything changed the day the library door opened. It was nearly dusk, and the house had started humming its strange, low lullaby, the creak of the floors settling, the distant whir of the heating vents. I was walking past the double doors of the library, arms full of papers I didn't need to carry, when I heard the sound of a piano. Not a song, just notes. Broken. Searching. I paused. I didn't mean to, but the sound pulled at something in me. The door was cracked open. Just an inch. Enough. And I saw him. He sat with his back to me, long fingers drifting over the ivory keys like he didn't know they were watching. No sheet music. Just feeling. Pure, raw, unfiltered emotion woven into every note. The hair on my arm stood up. I knew, instantly, that this wasn't just some man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, but there was a sadness in the slope of his back, the way his head hung slightly as he played, like he was carrying something too heavy for one soul. I should have walked on, but I didn't. I listened, until he stopped. Are you enjoying the show? His voice didn't rise, didn't fall, just floated back toward me like smoke. I froze, a deer caught in a moment. Then he turned, eyes like winter steel, expression unreadable. He looked at me the way no one ever had. Not like I was intruding, not like I was beautiful, not like I was nothing. He looked at me like I was a question. I'm sorry, I whispered. He stood and walked toward me. When he reached the door, he didn't open it. He simply stood on the other side, eyes locked with mine through the crack. You're the new receptionist, he said. Yes, sir. You've been here 3 weeks. Quiet, efficient, invisible. I swallowed. That's what the listing asked for. Something shifted in his eyes then. Tell me, Miss Elsie. Tell me, Elsie, he said slowly. Are you always this obedient? I didn't know what to say. The air between us felt charged, like something was about to ignite. I do what's required, I answered softly. He nodded, just once. Then he walked away. The days after that moment shifted, even if I pretended they hadn't. He stopped being invisible. Every now and then, I would catch him in glimpses, at the far end of a corridor, seated alone in the garden at dusk, his silhouette at the window across the courtyard. He wasn't a man who needed presence to command a room. He was the presence, quiet, observant, heavy with something you couldn't name. And every so often, he would speak to me. Always brief, always unnerving. Do you read, Elsie? Yes, sir. Then you'll understand silence. Or, why do you look like you're always ready to run? Because sometimes I am. From what? Everything. He never pushed further, never smiled. But something lingered in those conversations, like tiny embers, not yet flames. Until the snowstorm. It was a Friday, cold enough that the pipes groaned with resentment. I was the last to leave, but the storm came fast and hard, and the roads were already flooding with slush and panic. Miriam told me to wait it out. "Mr. Donovan won't mind," she said. "He'll stay locked away." So I stayed. The staff left. The house emptied, and I was alone in the silence until he found me. He appeared in the drawing room, where I had curled up near the fireplace, trying to distract myself with a dusty book I'd pulled from one of the old shelves. "You're still here," he said simply. I turned. I couldn't drive in that storm. He stepped closer, something in his hands. A glass. Amber liquid. "Brandy?" he asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat in silence, the fireplace casting long shadows that danced across his face. He looked different in the firelight. Warmer. Human. Almost weary. "I built this place to be alone," he said, eyes fixed on the flames. "But sometimes, even silence grows teeth." I said nothing. He looked at me. "What were you running from, Elsie?" I stared at the flicker of the fire. "My mother died when I was 17. My father left years before. I bounced from foster home to couch, to sleeping in borrowed places. I survived by becoming invisible." He didn't flinch, didn't pity, and maybe that's why I kept going. I had dreams once. To become a writer. To live in a place that smelled like cinnamon and rain. But you grow up. You shrink your dreams to fit the size of your survival. He nodded once. "I was 15 when I learned the truth about my inheritance," he said quietly. "That money doesn't heal. It buries." He poured himself more brandy, then offered me a second glass. That night, we didn't flirt. We didn't touch. We just shared silence that understood each other. Something changed after that. He started asking me to stay later. He asked questions, real ones. He noticed things. "Your eyes get darker when you lie. You hum when you're nervous. You stare at the moon like it's calling you back." I told myself it meant nothing. Until one morning, he said, "I'd like to promote you." I blinked. "Promote me?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "You know this house better than anyone. You see what others miss. I want you closer." "To do what?" He tilted his head slightly. "Be my assistant. My eyes. My voice when I don't want to speak." It wasn't just a job. It was an invitation. And I should have said no. But I didn't. Weeks passed. We started having breakfast together. He let me into rooms no one else entered. His study, his private office, his rooftop garden where he grew white roses no one ever saw. And then came the gala. The first public event he had hosted in 3 years. He asked me to stay by his side, not as staff, but as something else. "You'll need a dress," he said. "My tailor will meet you tomorrow." I hesitated. "Why are you doing this?" He looked at me, long and deep. "Because you don't see what everyone else sees." At the gala, everyone whispered. They wondered who the girl was in the midnight blue gown, standing beside the elusive Donovan Hart. But I only saw him. And that night, as the guests faded and the laughter turned hollow, he walked me to my quarters and stopped at my door. He didn't speak, just looked at me. And then, like gravity itself had tilted, he leaned in and kissed me. Not rushed, not rehearsed, just true. That was the beginning of the undoing. Because love, real love, doesn't arrive politely. It crashes. It floods. It exposes everything you try to bury. After that kiss, the world tilted. It didn't become fireworks or fairy tales. It became more dangerous. I saw less of the staff, heard whispers as I walked through the halls. My job title changed, but no one could name it. I wasn't just his assistant anymore, and yet, I wasn't anything official either. I didn't care. At first, he would take my hand when no one watched, brush his fingers across my lower back when he passed behind me. At night, we'd share brandy and memories and the kind of silence that spoke louder than confessions. But even the moon has shadows. It was a Tuesday when I overheard them, his board members, gathered in his study before he arrived. They didn't know I was on the other side of the double doors. She's a liability. He's losing focus. Ever since she arrived, he's changed. Changed. Yes, he had. He smiled more, slept more, trusted more. But to them, softness was weakness. That evening, I asked him, "Is what we're doing hurting you?" He stared at me for a long time. "No," he said, "but it's making me vulnerable. And in my world, that's a slow kind of death." I nodded, heartbreaking a little. "Then maybe I should leave." His jaw tightened. "Don't." But the crack was already there. And it widened the day I found the letter. It wasn't addressed to me, but it was left in my drawer, the one only I used. A single sheet of thick cream paper, with neat, careful writing. "You were never meant to stay. You were a lesson, not a future." No name, no signature, but the message burned. I confronted him. He denied writing it, swore on everything. But I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not guilt, not fear, just resignation. And that was worse, because that meant he agreed. So I left. No suitcase, no goodbye, just my coat and the echo of all the things we never dared to define. I got a studio apartment across town. Cheap, leaky but mine. I started over, again. Applied for writing gigs. Took coffee orders. Survived. I didn't hear from him. Not for weeks. Until a knock at my door on a rain-heavy night. There he was. Soaked. Disheveled. Eyes hollow. He didn't say hello. He just held up a notebook. "This was yours," he said. "It was under my bed." I took it. Flip it open. It was my old journal. My dreams. My hopes. My list of impossible futures. I had written it months before I ever met him. I read it, he said quietly. Every page. Why? Because I wanted to remember what hope sounded like. I couldn't speak. He stepped closer. "I didn't write that letter," he whispered, "but I was too afraid to fight it. I let them convince me I needed to be cold again. And now..." He looked at me like I was a lighthouse he never meant to sail toward. "Now I know. Being vulnerable with you saved me." The silence stretched. I stepped back, heart warring with head. "Then why didn't you come sooner?" His voice cracked. "Because I thought I could forget you. I couldn't." And just like that, the walls I built began to shiver. But I didn't fall. Not yet. I held his gaze. "I don't want to be a position. I don't want to be a secret. I want to be chosen, loudly, proudly, completely." He exhaled sharply, then slowly dropped to one knee. No ring, no theatrics, just truth. "I choose you, Elsie. No conditions, no hiding. Just you, with all your fire and fears." I knelt down too, our foreheads touching. "I don't want your money," I said. "I want the man who drinks brandy by the fire, who grows white roses in secret, who listens better than anyone I've ever met." He smiled, soft and broken and whole. And in that moment, the storm outside didn't matter. Because inside, we found something no title could offer. A beginning. A real one. Together.